Hi, thank you for joining. This video is the third and final video in a series of 3 that cover the Access Manager in Timbr. In case you missed the first 2, we recommend you watch these videos so you're familiar with the best practices. In this video, we will walk through the roles and policies in the Access Manager, showing how to create, edit, and apply roles and policies in the Timbr platform. So let's begin. We'll begin in the Access Manager component found under the Manage tab, and we'll click on the Roles tab. In the Roles tab, we can notice the 5 default roles we've mentioned in our previous video that can be assigned to users. These roles include Admin, which gives full access to the entire platform, and Public, which allows external access to a resource without needing to sign into the Timbr platform. Usually, users use this role for web applications connected to the Timbr platform to see dashboards and graph explorations, or to enable access for Timbr components that were embedded in external applications. The other 3 default roles are Editor, Analyst, and Viewer. Editor enables users with this role to create, edit, and query everything in the platform. Analyst allows users to query every resource in the platform, but does not contain the ability to create or edit data sources and knowledge graphs. Finally, the last role is the Viewer role, which gives access only to the metadata of all the knowledge graphs in the platform. The viewer can explore the knowledge graph models and see the properties and relationships of each concept, but he cannot edit or query anything, and he doesn't have any access to the data. It's important to mention that these roles, as default roles, enable the access level across all the resources in the platform. In a few seconds, we will see how to assign the same roles, but for specific data sources or knowledge graphs instead of all resources. For every role, you can hover over the User Assigned icon to see the list of users assigned to that role. Next to it, you can click on View Permissions to see the detailed permissions associated with the role, and all the way to the right there's a button in case you want to assign the role to a new user or an existing one, or if you'd like to duplicate and edit the specific role. Below the 5 roles we've just covered, we can see that Timbr creates default roles for each data source connected to the platform, as well as default roles for each knowledge graph created. These roles also include Analyst, Editor, and Viewer, which basically act the same as the default roles, just on a resource level. So for example here, we can see that we have a MySQL data source connected, as well as a knowledge graph we've created called newKG. If perhaps we had a user working on our specific knowledge graph newKG, and we wanted him to be able to create, edit, and view our knowledge graph, we'd assign him with the Editor role. But what if we didn't want him to be able to edit the MySQL data source configuration for a specific knowledge graph, and all we wanted him to have was viewing and querying capabilities of our data source? For that, we'd be able to also assign the user with the default Analyst role under the MySQL permissions. To the right of each default role, just like above, we can see if any users are assigned to our default roles. We can click on View Permissions of the desired role, and finally, we can click on the button to edit the selected role, assign the role to a new user, assign the role to an existing user, duplicate and edit the role, or delete the role. Let's go ahead and create our own role to see how it's done. On the top right, we'll click on Create New Role. We'll begin with the role details by naming our role. Let's call it Role Demo. And we'll add a description to describe the role. Below the role details are the platform permissions. Here, we determine which aspects of the platform will be accessible or non-accessible for users assigned to the created role. We can see the 4 menus: Model, Visualize, Manage, and SQL Lab, which represent the 4 menus on the top bar. When clicked on, each category will open a drop-down where we can select which components of the platform a user with this role can access and which he can't. So let's choose the desired access in the different categories for our new role. Now, we can see that the new role has access to all components of the platform aside from the Managed category. Let's go ahead and click on Add New Role. And here it is under a new section called Custom Roles. Now, when we click on our new role's View Permissions, in the window that slides in, we can see all the permissions we just added to the role. On the top right, we can click on Show Role Policies to see the policies that are associated with this role. At the moment, as our role is new, we don't have any policies attached to the role. We can click on Open Grant Policy and choose a policy to grant from the list, but we will get to the policies in a moment from the Policies tab. Next to Show Role Policies is Edit Role. which enables us to edit the role and the different platform permissions it contains. Above the platform permissions that we just determined are the access permissions of the role. While the platform permissions deal with what a user can access in the platform, the access permissions deal with what resources and data a user can use, edit, query, and access. So if we click on Add Access Permission, first we will need to choose the access type, which will be one of three: either can edit, query, or access a resource. Edit enables users to create, edit, or remove a resource. Query enables users to view the metadata and query a resource. Access enables users only to view the metadata of a resource. So let's go ahead and choose Edit. Depending on what we chose in the first dropdown, we will see different resource options in the second dropdown. So after choosing the Edit option in Access type, we now see 12 options in Resource that a user can edit, which include Specific Knowledge Graph, Specific Data Source, All Knowledge Graphs, Create Knowledge Graphs, All Data Sources, Create data sources, create new users, edit all users, edit a specific user, create new roles, edit all roles, and edit a specific role. Let's go ahead and choose Specific Knowledge Graph. This now opens a third dropdown where we will select the knowledge graph we'd like to give access to, in this case, our knowledge graph called New KG. In the fourth dropdown that appears, we will choose what exactly we want to give access to in our knowledge graph. If we leave it empty, it will provide access to all the resources in the chosen knowledge graph. Alternatively, we can see the specific options when clicking on the drop-down list. We can select View Ontology and all its resources, View Knowledge Graph, Mapping, Ontology View, Schema, Query History / Running Queries, Create Concepts, Create Mappings, Create Views. Let's choose to go with Mapping. In our fifth dropdown, we'll select the specific mapping we like to give access to. Let's choose a couple of mappings. We'll choose the Customer Concept Mapping, the Order Concept Mapping, and finally, the Product Concept Mapping. Lastly, we can check the box for With Grant Options, which will enable anyone with this role to grant or revoke permissions to other users in the scope of this permission. We can also click on Show Grant Query to see the SQL grant query generated by Timbr. We'll click on Save to save the new permissions we just defined for the role. And there they are. Now, let's jump over to the last tab called Policies, where we can create new policies as well as view and edit existing ones. Currently, we can see that there's one existing policy. We see the name, the ontology it belongs to, and the resource it's applied to, in this case a property. When hovering over the resource, we can see how it's defined, and we can also see the users that have the policy. Next to it, there's the last updated date and time of the policy. When clicking on the button to the right, we can choose to edit the policy, assign the policy to a user, assign the policy to a role, or remove the policy altogether. Let's go ahead and create a new policy by clicking over here. We'll start by giving our policy a name. In this case, let's call it Demo Policy. Next, we'll choose the knowledge graph we want the policy to take effect on. Then, we'll choose the resource type being either a concept, mapping, property, or view. Let's choose to apply the policy to a concept in our knowledge graph. For the resource name, we'll choose our concept customer. Finally, we'll apply our security policy rule being customer segment equals corporate. Now, we can go ahead and click on Add New Policy. And there it is. In our final stage, we'll click on the button to the right and choose to assign our new policy to a user. Let's choose to assign the policy to the demo user and click Save Changes. We can now see the new policy assigned to the demo user along with an existing policy that was assigned to the demo user as well. Our new policy is on concept customer. Therefore, the demo user should only see data from the customer concept if the customer segment is corporate, and the same goes for the second existing policy where the demo user should only see data from the property category when the category equals water sports. Now that the policies are assigned to our demo user, let's quickly sign into the platform using the demo user credentials and see the policy in action. So we are now in Timbr's SQL editor with our chosen knowledge graph and data source, and we can see a query asking for the customer name and segment, as well as the order city, product name, and category, leveraging the relationships in the data model. Let's go ahead and run the query and check the results. Just as intended, the demo user can only see customer segment data when it is corporate, and the demo user can only see product category data when the category equals water sports. And there you have it. That sums up video number 3 of the Access Manager component, and that wraps up our 3-piece series of the Access Manager, where we've covered how to create and edit users, roles, and policies, enabling granular levels of permissions, going through all the different options. If you've watched all 3 videos of the series, I invite you to check out additional tutorial videos on our YouTube channel or website to learn how to make the best use of the Timbr platform. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions at all. We'll see you in our next videos. Thanks for watching and have a great day.